The number of international tourists who freedom camped while visiting New Zealand has nearly doubled in 2 years. A new report from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment shows there were 60,000 foreign freedom campers in 2015, with the numbers swelling to around 110,000 last year. The Conservation Minister says rules set up around freedom camping for the Rugby World Cup back in 2011 no longer apply, and it's time to either clamp down or find a way to make the users pay. Our reporter Tracy Neal filed this report from a freedom camping think tank in Nelson.
Love them, or more frequently perhaps hate them, freedom campers are here to stay. And New Zealand is perfect for this kind of touring, according to Steve Hanrahan from tourism industry Aotearoa.
New Zealand is by default a touring destination where driving through the country is a great way to see it as opposed to flying from point to point. So with that, brings some of the freedom camping issues.
But there's agreement it's time to better manage those issues, like their habit of using our great outdoors as a toilet or hogging all the supermarket car parks with giant camper vans. Local Government Minister Nanaia Mahuta, who gave the opening speech at today's Freedom Camping Symposium in Nelson, explains why it's time for change.
We've seen over the last few years the negative impacts of freedom camping and communities wanting to see some movement in this area. So in my mind, the motivation and the imperative has been driven from our local communities saying we've got to do things differently.
The working group announced yesterday will make recommendations to the government on freedom camping policy. A member of the group, Grant Webster, says it's the best tool he's seen for triggering positive change. He also heads the country's largest campervan rental company, Tourism Holdings, and says people shouldn't ignore the benefits freedom camping brings to New Zealand.
This kind of travel and tourism can really create dispersal to broader regions. It's going to help economic growth if we continue it. If we shut it down, we really are going to be shooting ourselves in the foot.
MBIE's figures also show that freedom campers visit almost twice as many regions as regular visitors. Conservation Minister Eugenie Sage says some of these communities, particularly the smaller ones, don't think it's fair they should be paying their rates to develop facilities like toilets for freedom campers. She says that's leading to growing resentment, and the country can't afford to dent its reputation for throwing down the welcome mat to one and all.
Tourism is our number one export industry. It relies on New Zealanders welcoming visitors. We need to ensure that locals can enjoy their local reserves without them being congested with vehicles, and we need to ensure that facilities are provided.
Ms Sage says the rules set up in 2011 are no longer suitable, and it's time to consider tougher options.
Do we need to move to an approach like France, where vehicle camping is prohibited, except in designated areas? How do we ensure that users, the vehicle and roadside campers, contribute to the costs of the facilities that they are using?
The Mayor of Tasman District, Richard Kempthorne, says councils are also looking at a model freedom camping bylaw which can be adjusted easily to suit each area.
One of the things we'll be looking at is having standardised signage, so wherever freedom campers go around the country, they will be looking at the same signs, and that'll make much more sense.
Mr Kempthorne acknowledges a one-size-fits-all approach would make it easier for tourists, but says it could never work for councils because each has its own unique territory to manage. In Nelson for Checkpoint, Tracy Neal.